Everyone, I want to welcome you back to our Hong Kong Collectors Lounge Collectors Series. This week I'm very happy to have with me a renowned architect and longtime friend of the Watchbox family, Paul Tange. Paul, thank you for coming to visit us.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure. And Paul was kind enough to bring with him a really amazing and diverse collection, some pieces we rarely see these days in Hong Kong, in our possession here. So first, Paul, a little bit about yourself. Very well-known architect. Just tell us a little bit brief history about what you do and some big projects, favorite projects that you've worked on in the past.
Yes. Well, I'm an architect by profession. My father was also an architect, and Kenzo Tange. And after I finished my schooling, I joined his firm. And ever since then, from 1985, I've been practicing architecture. Now we are just finishing up 2020 Olympic Aquatic Center in Tokyo. So my father has done 1964 Olympic swimming pool. So like 2 generations of Tanges doing aquatic center for Olympics, which is a great joy for me.
Great accomplishment.
Yes, and also the fact that we are traveling all over the world. We are working in about 10 different countries as we speak. And watch is one thing that is always keeping me excited and make me work very hard, because every time I'm looking at and make sure that I'm catching the plane at the right time.
Right.
Yes.
Excellent. I know you architecture is in your blood. It's part of your family. I'm sure you see your father as a source of inspiration, and one of the watches we have here with a really deep connection to your father. Maybe you can explain this piece to us.
Yes. Of course, this is a Audemars Piguet bamboo. Actually, my watch collection has started quite 30-odd years ago with meeting my dear friend, Tay Liang Wee. At that time, he was a young man. I was a young man. Taking over the business of Sincere Watch. And my father was invited to Singapore by late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. And Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and my father was having a casual talk, and he said, "Oh, well, my father asked, where's a good place to buy a watch?" And Mr. Lee Kuan Yew said, "Go to Sincere." So that's how my father walked into Sincere, met Mr. Tay Liang Wee's father, and they decided to do a matchmaking, because I was coming back from the United States and he was coming back from Canada, Tay Liang Wee. So we met, and ever since then we are good friends. And then he's the one who really made me go crazy over watches. And this piece here was he created for my father. I mean, I don't think he was making this AP watch, but this dial has my father's name engraved on it. So
it's such a little touch. I didn't really notice at first. Of course, you see the Audemars Piguet designation at the top. You look closely, and there's the name at the bottom, Kenzo Tange. It's really, I think, an exceptionally special memento.
Yes. I mean, this is something that, it means a lot to me. He was wearing it, and I think Tay Liang Wee and his father chose this watch for my father because it looked good on him. And he was very conservative man, so it's not yellow gold, but it's
white gold. Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes.
So these watches, we see very different styles, round shapes, tonneau-shaped watches. We have an octagonal Gerald Genta. Is there a certain style or some kind of inspiration that you look for when you're designing your structures or buying your watches? What do you look for? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Well, I mean, for me, watch is something very close to my heart, because it's watchmaking, and actually the architecture is very similar. You know, watch is about this size, right? Of course. If it's like this, maybe it can fly, take you to the moon or something. But, you know, it's very limited. And then within this limited space, you put everything in it. Perpetual calendar, minute repeating,
Yes.
chronograph, whatever. So it is like same thing as an architecture. You know, we have a site, and within that site, we put whatever the client
As much as you
wants,
can.
and as much
Yeah.
as you want, and they always want one floor more, etc., etc. So for me, having a conversation with watchmaker is something that, you know, intrigues me. We stimulate each other because there's a constraint, so we try to overcome. And there's always a restriction, and then the creativity comes when you're given the task or challenge, and then we go over that. That's a sheer pleasure. So this is a reason that I have many watchmaker friends, like Franck Muller is a dear friend, and also Macaruso, when Luigi Gino was alive, you know, he came to me and he asked me to design his factory for him. Unfortunately, he couldn't get the land, so it didn't happen. But he was about to convert a power station into his studio,
Very cool.
and so that was like another story. And then many other watchmakers were dear to me because of this stimulating conversation that we always had.
You know, I think it's funny you mentioned Franck Muller because I see quite a few here. And, you know, in the watch industry, Franck Muller is, you know, I think rightly considered one of the greatest watchmakers ever. And of course, you know, among the greatest living watchmakers still.
Yes.
You know, his watches were among the most popular for, you know, a generation. And still today, these sizes and designs that he's, you know, introduced are just superb and fantastic. And I see two pieces here and then one very special one I just saw on your wrist. So maybe we can start with this one here. The first thing I noticed before you get started is the Caseback. It looks quite different than the standard production piece models that we normally see. So maybe just tell us a little bit about how you got this piece. And
well, this piece was, I bought it as a Sincere watch in Singapore. Of course, Tay Liang Wee is the one who convinced how wonderful Franck Muller watch was. And of course, as an architect, I see this like beautiful curvature and the colors and so on. Everything composition-wise, I'm really intrigued. And this was the first batch, I believe. And when you see a back, there's no screw on or anything like that. And it has S02.
so number 2 from the first batch.
First batch of Singapore. I think US one has a US 01 and so on. And then he used to make the numbers depending on where the watch was sent to.
So cool.
So this is number 2. I was told that somebody very, very important has gotten number 1. But this was my first Franck Muller. And this was what I can afford at that time. And funny story is that I bought this watch. I don't know, I paid in full at the time, but you know, I mean, I got it from Liang Wee and I put it on. And we are good friends already, so we went have a drink. And at that time, disco age, you know, and the best disco in Singapore is called Chinoiserie. So I was very happy, you know, and then because I got the watch. I think Liang Wee was very happy because I got the watch and he made the sale. So we went. And
Yes,
then
you laughing in the background
yes,
there.
of course, of course. And then we are jumping up and down in Chinoiserie with the sound of, I don't know, Rod Stewart or whoever. And, you know, it was getting late. So I said, look at this. I said, hey, Liang Wee, what time is it? I look at the watch. It was all smoky. It's all like a vapor got into the watch.
Okay.
And I said, I just took the watch and said, hey, Liang Wee, this is my first Franck Muller. What happened? And so he came up with a great story. He said, it's what you call handmade. So, of course, I guess I sweat too much after dancing, and then the water creep into the watch, and then made it steamy.
It's these stories that make the watches so special and
Yes.
important in one's collection.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then so, but this is my dear watch because of my first Franck Muller watch.
Right.
And after that, much later, I could finally afford and I find in the auction this Perpetual watch. Again, it is.
This was Franck's first Perpetual Calendar that he introduced.
Right, right. I mean, it took me a while for me to find it. But of course, when I first bought it in when I was early 30, obviously I could not afford Perpetual Calendar. But this is also the first batch.
And the proportions are just so perfect. And you talk about, fitting what you can into such a small, constricted space, working with what you have. And for Franck to have fit a true Perpetual Calendar to a small space.
Yes.
And just, it's fantastic.
I think it's, for me, I don't collect watch. I share the moment with good friends and exchange ideas. I mean, many of the watchmakers gave me architectural ideas. Or for that matter, bankers to anybody. I mean, not necessarily architect, to one architect to another, but this kind of watch is something that inspired me. I mean, how many complications that you can put in.
Truly fantastic.
Yes.
And I love how your first Franck Muller was, a time-only model. So basic complications, so to speak. You move on to the Perpetual Calendar. And then I see one more on the table here, which is even, if possible, a further step up from a Perpetual. And maybe we can talk about this one next, just the colors and, what you did to this watch. It's a color palette I really haven't seen before.
Yes.
So please.
Yes. This watch is a stainless steel jumping hour tourbillon, Franck Muller. Again, all my Franck Muller watch, or most of these watches are coming from my friend. Liang has been very successfully convincing me every time that, but this one actually I bought it here in Hong Kong, Franck Muller shop. And at that time, it was regular crocodile blue strap. The dial was the same, and it has a red dot was original.
And what's interesting is the accents on the strap, which matches the hands, and the tourbillon, the bridge there.
Yes.
So is this something that you special ordered, or how did you find that?
No, I mean, this was, I bought a watch, and then I realized that hands were chrome finish. So as I get older, you cannot see too well. So what had happened was that, I couldn't see the time. I mean, I could barely see the hours, but no hands. And then, it's a beautiful tourbillon movement, but this was also, metal finish. And so I brought to Franck Muller Japan, and they said, well, look, maybe I shouldn't be telling you this, but I said, I cannot see. Can you change it? And then, since it's a red dot, just change the hand to red. And then if you can, tourbillon movement,
No problem, yeah.
can do it. And they said, no. After a while, I said, but I cannot see this time. And then I passed it to him. 6 months later or so, came back. And not only the hands, but the tourbillon movement, all in red, with a new strap.
So what you really got is a piece unique, a jumping hour tourbillon, something, I think what's...
I didn't mean to have piece unique watch, but necessity, because I could not see the time. And Franck Muller decided to help me out. So I guess it is a piece unique.
It's lovely, and you can see the inspiration for the modern day version of these, which are the retrievable pieces.
Yes.
And just a Franck Muller with the curved case backs, the way they fit on the wrist, supremely comfortable, so well made, and just beautifully styled. There's really nothing else like them.
I
So
think
I'm
so.
very jealous of this one. Very, very cool. Well, Thank you.
Yes.
So yes.
I mean, talking about Richard Mille, I mean, he's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And it's also, I see him maybe a couple of times a year in a different occasion, like Formula One.
And you met him through Formula One, or?
Well, I met him through friends, and ever since then, he considered me crazy Japanese. And whenever he find me anywhere, he would just scream and say, "Hey, Paul, Paul," because everybody called me Paul, but I mean, nobody called me Paul. But anyway, that's the way he always called me, and he comes and hug me and all these things. And again, you know, we exchange ideas. You know, I mean, he's a watch conceptor. He had come up with a totally new ideas of timepiece, and that's something that I'm very intrigued about him as well. I mean, he's not the watchmaker, but he can
Designer.
conceptualize everything. It's not only the design, but the whole thing, you know? I mean, putting a totally new concept to watch industry, which I found it very, you know, fascinating.
Do you have any RM pieces in your collection?
Well,
Or in your possession?
well, yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I'm an architect, so I cannot keep on buying the watch. That's why I think Watchbox is fantastic, you know, because I mean, at my age, I don't need too many pieces, so I throw quite a bit of pieces to upgrade myself to some other pieces. I mean, these are the relatively old pieces that I have, but you know, and the important ones I keep, but the rest, you know, I just rotate
exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And yes, I have one piece of Richard Mille, RM11, RM-FM, Felipe Massa.
Fantastic.
Because Felipe is a dear friend of mine.
Okay.
He used to call me brother, but he found out I'm 2 years younger than his father, so he called me uncle nowadays. But yes, you know, I met him through Richard Mille, actually.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I guess keeping on with the theme of, you know, your relationship with, you know, those in the automotive, you know, industry or racing industry. You were telling me about this piece of the Armin Strom, and it was given to you by a Formula One driver.
Yes, yes.
How did that happen?
This was Armin Strom. He was sponsoring one of the racing team, and one of the driver was Max Chilton, and there was an event in Singapore when this watch was exhibited, and I was invited to that event, and I went there, and Max was there, and I don't know, he started talking to me. I don't know why, but we keep on talking, and then we became, you know, good friends. And Armin Strom was sponsoring that racing team, so he was wearing this. This is his watch. He wore one whole season.
On his wrist.
On his
this exact
wrist.
Piece. Wow. Okay.
While he was driving.
Very cool.
Like Felipe Massa wears his watch. And I make sure that I ask these people, do you really wear the watch during the race? And these two gentlemen said yes. And to show that he was wearing it, one day he said the strap was kind of bothering him. So he took the scissors and he just cut it. And so this is not only original watch, but original strap. And then there's a kink here and there because he was in a rush to get into the car, and then he banged it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Wow, very cool.
But
Great
for
story.
me, you know, watch collecting is not only having the pieces, but having a memory, friendship.
Sure.
You know. So as I said, Felipe Massa RM is very important to me. Any other RM, I mean, it's a beautiful pieces, but not as attractive to me. And this watch, for example, is Max. You know, now he's driving Indy cars, and he kept on saying, "Come and see me." And but you know, all this, it shows a friendship. Franck Muller to Tae Liang Wee to Max Chilton to Felipe Massa, they're all good friends. So
Very
that's
cool,
a
yeah.
history for me.
I love it.
Yes.
And while we're talking about your personal connection with watches, I saw you pull out of your bag this IWC Aqua Timer, which at first looked like a standard diver's piece that we see on a normal basis. I look closely and I see the black and the red, it's a different color combination, and I see the Jackie Chan signature. So how did you come into this piece? Because I've never seen one of these in person before.
Yeah. Well, actually, this one is limited to 20 pieces.
Okay.
Jackie became very good friends for the last 15 years or so. Time flies. But he was shooting a movie in Japan, secretly. It's called Shinjuku Incident. And while he was doing that, it was my birthday. And he just gave me a birthday party, and he gave me this watch and said, in his note, he said, well, this is most probably the cheapest watch you're going to own. But this, when you wear this, think of it, I'm with you.
Wow.
And, things like that surprised me because I didn't know how he was feeling towards me. I mean, of course, I was feeling, wow, superstar.
Big as he gets. Yeah, right.
I mean, come on, he's Jackie Chan.
That's right, yeah.
But, we, all these years that we start having, this kind of close relationship, he is so nice that he called me, you're part of my family. And you know the difference between family and friends? Friends, they say, nice to see you. Mm-hmm. And when do you leave? Good to see you. Family, say, oh, I'm leaving. Oh.
Desensitized, yeah.
That's that kind of thing. So this was a very special watch for me. That shows his feeling towards me. And I still have his
you have the
letter.
note with it?
Yes.
So cool.
But I mean, I put it on a frame, and it's in my office. But the sun is hitting so much that it's kind of getting faded, and I'm beginning to worry.
Patina.
Patina, yes, that's right.
Oh, fantastic! And this is irreplaceable, memories that goes with these watches, and
Yes.
I fully appreciate the sentiments. That's what this is all about: the collecting and the emotions associated with.
Yes.
One of the brands a lot of people collect is Rolex, and I was expecting to see a lot more Rolex than I do here, but the one I do see is just so eye-catching, and for me as a day date,
Yes.
I'm obsessed with day dates.
You have one yourself.
Yeah, very similar, of course. The one you have is an 1803, but a Stella dial. How did you find this? Did you buy it originally? Where did it come from? This is fantastic, yeah.
Yes, I mean, many people think I'm a colorful guy. So plain Rolex doesn't suit me so well. And I came across this watch in California, the vintage shop, and now he is official distributor of Rolex. And when I saw this Stella dial, I thought, this orange, it's me. And it's not like oxblood color or one of those more tame Stella. This is very bright.
This has such a character to it.
Yes,
and
yes.
Might have to swap these out later
Yeah.
when I'm not looking.
No, so I think it's I'm not a vintage watch guy, really. Again, if there's a story, friendship, then that's something else. But, just because it is vintage Rolex is in, I'm not that kind of watch collector.
Sure.
But this one is like so non-Rolex.
Correct. Yeah.
And then you tell me Stella was made only a few years, right?
For a few years, and predominantly for the Middle Eastern market.
Oh, is that what it is?
They found there was a defect in the paint. They would chip and fade over time. So Rolex ended up buying back a lot of these and destroying them. You're kind of adding to the rarity and exclusivity of these dials. When I look at one like this with really no cracking or any defects at all, it's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, the other piece that caught my eye, which you had sent me a picture a few days ago, give me heads up as to what you were bringing, so I could
Yes.
do some research and just have an idea of what to prepare for. I saw this Gerald Genta in your photograph. I've never seen one of these in person, and it's, I think at the time one of the most complicated watches that was ever produced this time in the 80s. Perpetual Calendar, skeletonized dial, gold brick bracelet. How did you come across this piece? It's fantastic. The whole back movements, filigree engraved by hand. It's a wow watch.
I think Gerald Genta, to me, is a hero because, of course, today's market, Patek Philippe, Nautilus, Audemars Piguet, or both designed by him, and it was quite sensational. I mean, I used to have, as I said, I rotate watches. Nautilus, stainless steel and gold combo. I think now they're coming back.
Correct. Yeah, Stone's making it come back.
I just had that. I had that, piece when it came out, and I always liked that kind of design. Sportive, but at the same time, there's a beauty to it. And then I found out Gerald Genta is the one who designed this, and it took me a long time to have a guts to really buy this kind of complicated piece. Fortunate for me, the price was very reasonable in auction. I don't know whether you call it is keeping the value or not, but for me, it was something that I always wanted to have. Very complicated Gerald Genta piece.
Sure.
And before bidding for this watch, I actually even asked Franck Muller, hey, what do you think about this watch? I'm thinking of it. And he said, go for it.
Sharing your personal stories with us and your emotional connection to most of these watches, really appreciate it. It's so special for us to have you here and to again share this with you. So I want to thank you again, Paul, for joining us. Hope to see you back again very soon.
Yes, thank you so much. I really enjoy talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay.